Okay, hi brothers and sisters. We're going to take a look at that angel that you see standing in Revelation 10. And that angel actually appears in the Old Testament for anybody who studies, really studies, and don't go into commentary and listen to what the men on the pulpit have written and the forefathers and all that. But you actually go in and you choose to study with the Holy One, teaching you all truths. That angel in Revelation 10 is shown actually standing in one of the 3 chapters that I use to identify who the right hand of God is. And of course, the right hand we identified as the daughter of Israel herself on earth, known as the presence of God, and is of course an angel on earth, called an angel, according to, what's written. So we're going to actually take a look at Psalm 89. And the 3 chapters, of course, that we use to identify that right hand of God was Isaiah 51, Isaiah 52, and Psalm 89. Those were the 3 chapters that you really need to put together. So we're going to begin in Psalm 89. We're not going to read it all, but we might move back and forth through it. For now, we're just going to read what I've actually written in my notes here, which is only about 3 pages, so it shouldn't be a very long video. I did say I was done. There are a few points that, when I get studying, I feel that they are important and do need to be emphasized. But anyway, Psalm 89, verse 20, it says, I have found Israel. Now, they don't say that. I have found Israel, daughter, that's a daughter, my servant, with my holy oil. Found? Do I have that right? See, I've already made a blunder. Sorry. Let me go in and pull this up. How do I do that? Oh, I got to minimize first. Sorry. Okay, I am in Psalm 89, verse 20. Let's backtrack and see. Make sure I got it right. I have found, yeah. Now, they say David. It's not a man. It was never a man. The men of Baal stuck that in there, right? And it says what does it say? In Ezekiel 47, we read it in connection with the covenant of God, the true covenant of God. It says, put away the carcasses of your kings. And that's a reference to playing man's harlot, especially to the harlot spirit in the earth, whether it be female or male. But yes, of course, it is identifying women who bow to the idol of a man, their husband as Lord and God. We identified that. But here it says, I have found Israel, daughter, my servant, and with it says holy oil or water. I would say water, because this is all going to bring us back to the rivers and the waters of the world. You watch how this angel brings us back to this. So I'm not sure that this is oil, though oil burns, right? And she is the light of the world. So we can look at it in that sense of oil, but she's also full of the living water. So she anoints her not only with the oil to burn like a light, but she is also full of the water. Have I anointed her, not him. 21, with whom my hand shall be established, mine arm also shall strengthen her. Verse 22, the enemy will not. This is interesting, because we know that she's going to be tested, this mighty angel. It says the enemy will not, and it's got, I believe, deceive here. The enemy shall not exact. This is the King James. The other is the enemy will not deceive her. The enemy will not attack her. The enemy will not get the better of her. The enemy shall not outwit her. Do we not understand what's going on? Of course we do, for those who've been following on this channel. So the enemy will not deceive, beguile, or outwit her. They got him? No, her. It's her they're trying to outwit with a religious lie. Nor the son of wickedness. That's the first Adam. Afflict. To afflict here means to oppress or to humble her. And when you go in and you look up some of the words, I wish I'd have took this one down. It does have the idea to be humbled in cohabitation, in this marriage covenant that is disannulled, all right? But it says this one who's been chosen out by God herself to establish her new branch in the earth. The enemy will not deceive her, beguile, or outwit her, nor the son of wickedness will afflict, oppress, or humble her. Right? Verse 23, and I will beat down her foes before her face and plague them. I meant to look this word up. Sorry, I didn't. Plague them that hate her. Now, we already did a video and we proved it was her that they hated. And we get it in context with the God of the world, the true living God that they hated. And it's always with the daughters in view, that they hated God. And so in one of those verses that we use to prove that, of course, is found in Genesis 49 for anybody who's followed me. So let's look this word plague up in Psalm 89:23. It's 5062. To strike, to smite, perhaps with a plague. Yeah. Beaten, defeated, hurts, plagued, routed, smite, smites, smote, strike, striking, struck down, stumble, surely. Okay. Let's keep moving down here. Let's see. So, plague. So, it's interesting, and it also means inflict a disease. All right? A primitive root, to push, to gore, defeat, as in your opponent. In a contest, stub the toe, inflict a disease, beat, dash, hurt, plague, slay, smite down, strike, stumble, and surely put to the worse. Okay, so let's go back out. All right? And we'll keep reading here. So it says they won't oppress her, humble her, or deceive her, or outwit her with this religious lie. And I will beat down her foes before her face and plague them that hate her. And she says, they hated me without a cause. But my faithfulness and my mercy shall be with her, and in my name shall her horn, not his, her horn be exalted. Verse 25, I will set her hand also. This is where we're going to end up in the book of Revelation. Revelation 10. I will set her hand also in the sea, and her right hand in the rivers. Now people say, well, no, that's not the angel, because that's not what it says. But keep reading. It does so. So this is the angel. This is the firstborn daughter, Ephraim. That's Israel. Ephraim was the firstborn daughter, but Ephraim was also the name for Israel. So it's the twofold name Israel, which Jacob wrestles the presence of God for, known as the camp of Mahanaim, which is the presence of God on earth, and he wrestles her, and he takes her birthright from her. And she, of course, willingly gives it over, but she hamstrings him, identifying the fact that she will come back and she will take out this male army that stole her birthright from her. That's what it seems to be indicating. So, this is the firstborn daughter Ephraim, or Israel, in Revelation 10:1. Then I saw another mighty angel coming down from heaven, wrapped in a cloud, with a rainbow above her head. Her face was like the sun, and her legs were like pillars of fire. She held in her hand a small scroll, or a little book. And the Hebrew word for that is sefer, or cipher, which lay open. And she placed her right foot on the sea, and her left foot on the land. And then she cried out in a loud voice like the roar of an Ariel, a lioness. It is not a male. And when she cried out, the seven thunders sounded their voices. This is the daughters. That's who they are. So Psalm 89:26, and she shall cry unto me, thou art, they got my father. No, this one's unique and special. She's not deceived by the religious lie. And you can say, I'm pointing to me. I'm pointing to daughters like myself, who are willing to receive this truth of our mother poured into us. We're identified as a red jar, and that red jar identifies us daughters holding the water that is poured into us by our mother. And if you go to Ezekiel 19, you'll understand it a bit better. And they're identified as red jars, identifying them as the suffering servant, as God. These are the daughters who suffered to, in the end, bring forth mother's true covenant in the earth. And so they're identified in a sense as red, which is identified as suffering. It has the blood in mind. They were sacrificed. They were burned to ashes. We've studied this. For anybody who's watched my videos, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, thou art my mother, right? My God, and the rock of my salvation. They want to put it farther. Deuteronomy 32:18 identifies it as our mother. It says, you forgot the rock who writhed in pain, and that absolutely is childbirth, that word there, to bring you forth, to birth you. Yeah, that's not a father. Though they want to give everything credit to daddy, 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 and ignore mother, and then you wonder why God is so angry with you. Psalm 2:8, ask of me, mother, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, she says to this daughter, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. You see, and then also Psalm 72:8-11, she's saying this to this mighty angel who has this little scroll, which is the deed, the title deed, which is found in the little book sealed up in the big book. And she's telling her, ask of me, right? The heathen, and I'll give them all to you, to the ends of the earth. And in Psalm 72, it says of her, this angel, this presence of God, which is known as God standing on the earth, she, follow my pages here, she shall have dominion also from sea to sea, and from the river unto the ends of the earth. You see, she does so. So she's claiming not only the water, the pure living water, but the earth that she's going to establish with it. So from sea to sea, and from the river unto the ends of the earth. Psalm 80, verse 11. She sent out her boughs unto the sea, and her branches unto the river. So again, if you go to Ezekiel 19, you'll be able to understand this more clearly. Psalm 72, verse 8. May she rule from sea to sea. So, and from the Euphrates to the ends of the earth. Now we saw, it's in Jeremiah 51:52. It does speak of the Euphrates there. And I believe it says, how does it say it now? I can't remember it. Cast Babylon into the sea, tie a rock around this lying scroll. I can't remember how it says it. And cast it into the Euphrates, it says. And then it says, say to Babylon, as this stone sinketh, so shall thou sinketh, right? So it's talking about, the doctrine of the harlot spirit in the land, which is the lie that binds her under the religious lie and law system of man, which then we know iniquity is shaped by. Okay. So back to Psalm 89:26, and I repeat it again. Thou art my mother, and you are the rock of my salvation, my mother. So in Psalm 89, she is speaking all about a daughter that she intends on calling forth to speak her truth in the land. And this has to do with Rahab, okay? So let me see here. Where do we want to go? And she says, thou art my mother, my God, and the rock of my salvation. And I will make her my firstborn. We know who the firstborn always was identified as. And it says, Ephraim is my firstborn. They want to put it a son, the men of Baal. Just like they want to put father here. In verse 26 of Psalm 89 is clearly a daughter she is bringing forth. And it is her mother that is doing it. And she says, thou art my mother, my God, and you are the rock of my salvation. My mother is Israel, and she is Israel from above, who gave life to all things. And without her, you will not be birthed into nothing. She says, fine, if there's such a burden to me, she says, don't worry, you'll be no burden to me. If you don't even know who I am, and you can't respond to your mother who gives life to you, and then she says, don't worry, I won't deliver you. You won't be no children of mine. So also I will make her my firstborn, and I will make her higher than the kings of the earth. My mercy will I keep for her forevermore, and my covenant shall stand fast with her. She says, I'm not ruling through a harlot spirit in the land. Forget it, boys. Forget it, girls. Her seed also will I make to endure forever, and her throne as the days of heaven. Now, when you read the next portion, what it's going to take you to is what really happened eventually. The children did forsake her law. They did walk not in her judgments. They did break her statutes. They did not keep her commandments. And then she said, I will visit their transgressions with the rod, and their iniquity with stripes. Nevertheless, my loving kindness will I not utterly take from her, nor suffer my faithfulness to fail. My covenant will I not break, nor alter the thing that is gone out of my lips. It will still happen. And she says that to her firstborn daughter. She says, I will establish thee again in the land. And once and for all, I have sworn an oath by my holiness, and I will not lie to my daughter of Israel. Her offspring will continue forever, and her throne like the sun before me. Not the false light, not the lie in land. Now, I ain't going to keep reading because I want to go out and find Rahab right quick here, because this gets to be very important, because it is so what we have hit on. Okay, so where is it? About Egypt. Can I find it? Right here. So we'll start in verse 5. Psalm 89, verse 5. And heaven shall praise thy wonders, O Lord, thy faithfulness also in the congregation of thy holy ones. That's the daughters, reestablished in the congregation of the Lord. All right? For who in the heaven can be compared unto the Lord? Who among the sons of the mighty can be likened unto the Lord? It's not the sons that are likened to the mighty. It's actually the daughters. God is greatly to be feared in the assembly of the daughters, and to be had in reverence of all them that are about, not him, her. They're about her. They're about their mother. O Lord God of hosts, who is a strong Lord like unto thee? So we are actually looking for correspondence, a strong daughter in the earth who is not easily beguiled and fooled, and who is not oppressed as well. So she calls these daughters her strong ones, and she says, I will preserve them, right? She says this over and over in many different passages in the Bible. Or to thy faithfulness round about thee. Thou rulest the raging of the sea. When the waves thereof did rise, thou stillest them. So now if you can take your thoughts out into the heavens, and how the heavens began to roil, and, the waves thereof arise. But she has the power to still them. And so there we see the presence of God, in a sense, parting the Red Sea and identifying the two covenants in the land, and there she will be able to birth her children. And this is important because then this brings in Egypt in the next verse, verse 10. Thou hast broken Rahab in pieces. What's that? That's the dragon. That's the dragon system. You crushed Rahab like one who is slain. You scattered your enemies with your powerful arm. We identified from Isaiah 51, Isaiah 52, and Psalm 89 that the right hand is indeed identified as feminine, the daughter of Israel, identified as the presence of God and as God standing on the earth. Thou hast broken Rahab in pieces as one that is slain. Thou hast scattered thine enemies with thy strong arm. Why is Rahab important? If we go in, what is the meaning of the word Rahab here? This is so vital to understand, to study, to show thyself approved unto our mother, our true Holy One, who is our salvation. What does it say of this word? It means a storm, and it's also a name for Egypt, and it's masculine. I do happen to believe it's masculine. I do. The name as Rahab, a boaster, and an epithet of Egypt. It also means dragon. Who cut Rahab and pierced the dragon, it says. So we get that again in Isaiah 51. Let's just pull this up briefly. So we get the correlation with Rahab to the word dragon for anybody who is interested in how you make these connections. Okay, so I'll go up here. I did this wrong. There we go. So Isaiah 51:9, this is where you'll get Rahab as a dragon. What does it say? It says, awake, awake, arm of the Lord, clothe thyself with strength. Awake as in the days gone by, as in generations of old. Was it not you who cut Rahab to pieces, who pierced that monster through, or that dragon through, it says. So who is Rahab? Egypt. Egypt with the religious lies of the bull god Baal that came out of Egypt. The solar calf deity, which is a sacrifice. Man portrays himself as a victim, as if he was the one that was slaughtered when he was really slaughtering his sisters. They are the suffering servant, and they did so suffer to bring the children forth. They do so carry the burden upon them. Daily has she carried the burden upon herself, it says, of these daughters of this Lord in Psalm 68. So then we take this look out into the second heaven, because from what I understand, we are now going through this dragon system. All right? And it is the right hand. So it says, awake, awake, arm of the Lord, clothe yourself with strength. Awake as in the days gone by, as in generations of old. Rouse yourself as in the days of old when you slew Egypt, the dragon of the Nile. Or who pierced the dragon through? Was it not you who cut Rahab into pieces? So what does it say of the Leviathan? It says in one passage, and I can't remember where, but that Leviathan will be took apart, and all the goods of that system will be doled out, right, to the true children of the Lord who still remains. All right? So we are seeing all of our connections line up to the right hand of God. It says, clothe thyself in strength. We know it is she who must clothe herself in strength. How do we know that? Well, we know it because of what it says, again, in Isaiah 52. What does it say? Just got to reason and use our brains. Awake, awake, right? We just read it. Clothe yourself with strength, O Zion. Put on your garments of splendor, O Zion, holy city. For the uncircumcised and the unclean, those who are in covenant with her, that spirit will no longer enter you. Shake off your dust. Rise up and sit on your throne, O daughter of Israel. Remove the chains from your neck, O captive daughters of Zion. You've been captive, made captive into a religious lie and law system of this dragon system ruled by men of Baal. Again, your solar calf deity comes out of Egypt and then turns into this slain calf that God above requires a blood sacrifice, and then it turns into a man standing as your Lord and God, which you see in Daniel chapter 2, Daniel chapter 3, which is then Baal, that word, your husband, standing as your Lord and Master. Okay, so we see all the connections here. It's not so hard to identify. And, okay, so where was I going? Right. So she defeats the dragon, and the dragon lost the battle, and he and his angels were forced out of heaven. All right? And the great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil and Satan. That's Baal. Or Baal simply was this ridiculous god that they built up, which was man. It was an idol of a man. Your husband, it means your husband as your Lord and your God, which really came from Adam. And that we trace that back to Adam, who, because Baal, Beelzebub in the New Testament actually is the same word as Baal. And it'll tell you it means the chief devil or one over the demons. And then it links you to the word Satan. So we are tracing it all back to Adam, the first Adam, who is actually Satan, our accuser, and the one that cannot be deceived or beguiled or outwitted by this ridiculous lie of a man as your Lord and God, your husband, who you must bow down to, which I'm sure in no way empowers him in this world. Sure it does. He wrote a law and he yoked you, and you let him do it by bowing to a religious lie every day of your life. But she says, don't worry, you'll be no burden to me because I'm not going to deliver you. It's pretty hard to deliver you when you don't want to hear anything she has to say. Wisdom says fools love their foolishness. They can't be bothered to listen. So she says, this day have I begotten my daughter. And so I tend to read, we'll do this last, Revelation 12 very differently. I think they have took it out of context. I think they've moved sentences around so that they could avoid the true layout of God's plan in this case. So here we go. Revelation 12. So this is what it says. Okay, so I'll go in and I'll parallel this. That's what I'll do. And then I'll be done after we read this. So it says, okay, so this is what I think it should actually be rendered as. They've got it wrong. So the dragon, I'm talking about the dragon here, and there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his heads. So when we go to, I forget which chapter it is here, I believe in Revelation, it says the Antichrist will have the horns of a lamb, but really speaks like a dragon, and he did. The Antichrist system, which is Jesus standing, the idol standing, man standing as your Lord and God, has indeed spoke like a dragon to women in particular, and have indeed yoked her and told her a whole pile of shit, and that's why you bring in Baal, called Lord of Dung. And then we have the female descendants coming out of the draft house, we are said in, or told of, in Micah chapter 2, I believe is where it says it. Yeah, I think it is. Micah chapter 2. No, Micah chapter 4 or 5, verse 2. Yeah, Micah chapter 5, verse 2. Sorry about that. And when you go in and you look up that daughter who is from everlasting, which they want to put as a son, it is a female descendant that comes out of the draft house. That's this lie, which is also why you can't, she will not be deceived or beguiled or overcome or outwitted by this religious lie that's been built up by the men of Baal, telling you that God requires a blood sacrifice. God says, I require no blood of you. I never did. You dripped blood and lies into my covenant of peace. Yes, you did, which is identified as water, not blood. So again, let's go back up. We'll start in verse 1. And there appeared great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. A woman is only ever good to bring forth a son. That's all she's ever any good for. Forget about women, forget about daughters. All you're any good for is to birth a son. That's it. That's how the men of Baal has taught it. But here, she's actually delivering her firstborn daughter. Though they want you to believe it is a son, it is a lie, right? And she being with child cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. And then there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head. What this dragon did is he tosses a third of the stars. And we pick up a third of those, we pick those stars up in Daniel chapter 8, where they stamp upon these stars, which is the same as those axemen welding axes in the forest, cutting the cedar trees down in the forest of Lebanon, which was akin to the mighty daughters, all right, who ruled. And so here we get this system, Egypt, actually, this mighty dragon, who also muddied the waters, we're told in Ezekiel. And then here we see the dragon, Rahab, Egypt, casting a third of the stars to the ground, and was ready to devour her child as soon as it was born. Now, I think verses 5 and 6 are reversed. I do not think that is the correct order. I think 6 is actually 5. And we'll read it. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. I don't think it's days. You can say I'm fantastical in my thinking, and I think you actually have to be in order to study in the Spirit. I think it's 1,260 years is where she's been here. And the earth has helped her. The earth has hit her. And it's helping her now again here near the end. And we'll continue, and we'll go back up to verse 5. And she brought forth a female child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God into her throne. And she's caught up into the heavens as she who is like God, who battles the dragon. That we are currently, from what I understand from various channels, we are currently passing through a dragon system. And it is causing, from what I understand, storms on planet Earth. And I've actually had a couple of witnesses say in the middle of the night there was these strange smelling smog in the sky. Now they're saying you can't pick it up in reality. And I'm wondering if there aren't parts of the globe that you actually can pick it up in a physical way. Because both of these witnesses described it as like something that they didn't know what it was. They had never seen anything really like it. But yet it appeared like some kind of a smoke storm in some way. And there was war in heaven, Michael and his angels. No, it's her. It's she who is like God. Michael is she who is like God. This angel in Revelation 10, holding her deeds back to earth, full of the water, shining as the light of the world. And she will fight against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and they prevailed not. And neither was their place found any more in heaven. And so the great dragon was thrown out, that ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the first Adam, who violated his covenant when he accused her. He points at her and he accuses her. And he accuses us daily in the heavens, which now, once this one is chosen out as the new branch, because she says, I'm not ruling through no harlot. I don't care how many of you want to go, Father, Father, Father. She says, don't worry, you're not going to outsmart my servants. Because she said, I am God. He never was God. You can call on Father all you want. He ain't going to deliver you out of nothing. I'm the one that gives life, not him. But oh well, keep bowing like the harlot that you are, and that you are unwilling to reason. You have hardened your heart. You have hardened your necks. You plug your ears up and you close your eyes. You simply don't want to hear the truth, which is right where Satan wants you to be. So he was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power not of our Christ. The Christ that you have in view is the actual Antichrist. Jesus is the Antichrist standing. He is the idol standing that was built up in Daniel 2 and 3. We also know that the 666 beast system was built up by King Solomon. We have pointed over and over again at how this came to be so. So it's the power of her anointed one, not Christ. It's her anointed one, which is her firstborn daughter that she has now chosen out to hold her water and to be lit with the light of truth, as in that center candle. For the accuser of our brethren, no, they accuse us, of our sister is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And she let them do it. And then, of course, they overcome it by blood. Their blood. They overcame it by giving up their lives, even unto death. And that links us back to the daughters of Israel who were burned to ashes, representing the red heifer, right? Red is symbolic of suffering. They are the suffering servant, reborn at the end. And she says, I will choose thee again. You will be mine. And so when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, when Adam, fallen Adam, saw that he was cast unto the earth, he had to give up that throne that he thought was going to be his. He persecuted the woman which brought forth the female child, not male. And to the woman were given 2 great wings. But this is the one. And the earth helped the woman. And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon had cast out of his mouth. What's going on right now in the world? The waters are being dried up, aren't they? The earth is swallowing up these floods, these lies, because water is akin or allegorical to your doctrine. We also get the understanding that he defiled the waters by dripping blood into them. You also have the idea that he contaminated them with, and forgive me for saying this, but this word is in the Bible, with piss and with dung. His own piss and his own dung is what he did to the water, the well of water, which is identified as coming from the wife of the original covenant, which is also identified as the Holy Spirit in the earth, or the presence of God that they did not want in covenant. And so anyway, we see the waters being dried up on earth, which then again also takes us an allegory to what we find in Isaiah 42. She says, "Long time have I held my peace, now will I go forth as a travailing woman. I will destroy, I will devour at once. I will make islands, I will make your pools islands," or I forget how it says, "I will dry up the waters," right? "And I'll bring the blind by a way that they knew not." This 7th trumpet that sounds when the mystery gets revealed is also when you study and you begin to understand Revelation chapter 10, which is in connection to Psalm 89, which is also known as the right hand of God, which is then identified as daughter Israel, who must stand up and take her throne, shake herself up out of the dust. She is also identified as that 7th trumpet sounding, and the glory in the earth. I just find it strange how it's all lining up. And we see Rahab the dragon, and Rahab is another name of Egypt. We see the witnesses dying in a place called Sodom and Egypt because the world does not want to receive the truth of the original spirit as female, not male, and that she is the one who laid out the heavens, she's the one who created all things, and she's the one who gave life to all things. It was not Father. And the unique thing that you'll find when you get understanding those passages, Isaiah 51, Isaiah 52, and Psalm 89, it absolutely is going to help link you to Revelation 10 and then to 12 if you want to put it all together. So there's the video. Don't know that I'll actually post this. But thanks for watching. Thanks for being along on this journey with me. Thought it was important enough to maybe highlight this angel once again because we are in the days of that 7th trumpet. I believe she's sounding. I believe she's sounding loudly. I think she's getting ready to be caught up to the heavens very soon. Not sure completely how that dragon system fits into it. I know it's Rahab, Egypt. I know he was sitting on the throne. I don't think he's there anymore. I do think he is falling, and he's falling fast, like lightning. Anyway, there's the video. Thanks for watching. I hope y'all have a really nice day, and I pray you're blessed with an abundance of the waters of truth that comes from our Mother.